Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am Kieran Campbell, registered dietitian and owner of the website Kieran Campbell Nutrition. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about caffeine. Every once in a while, I get questions from patients about how much coffee they can drink, whether or not tea is better than coffee, and things like that. So, let's talk about caffeine and what the research says. In this short video presentation, I'm going to fill you in on what caffeine is, what food or beverages contain caffeine, who should avoid caffeine, if anyone, and some health benefits and possible side effects of caffeine, how much caffeine affects the heart, and what you can add to your coffee or tea to make it more enjoyable, but yet still tasty. Okay, so are you guys ready? Let's start by explaining what caffeine is. Caffeine is actually a drug. It's a stimulant, which means it increases your activity within your central nervous system. Other drugs that are also stimulants include things like amphetamines, nicotine, and cocaine, which obviously are also very addictive drugs. Caffeine is addicting too, but it's not as addicting as some of these drugs. You do have symptoms of withdrawal when you do all of a sudden stop caffeine when you're used to it on a daily basis, but usually the side effects go away fairly quickly, and they can range from anything like shakiness to migraine headaches. Caffeine specifically is known to improve alertness, focus, and energy levels. And although there can be these benefits, right now there is no standardized recommendation for how much caffeine we can consume on a daily basis. The FDA, though, does consider 400 milligrams per day of caffeine a safe amount for most healthy adults. So, where do we get our caffeine from? There are a few different sources of caffeine in the human diet. And starting at coffee, which happens to be the most prevalent one, coffee is number one. We can also get caffeine from things like tea, energy drinks, soft drinks, and foods. There are also foods that have caffeine added during food production, like caffeinated waters and other beverages, drink mixes, energy chews that are geared towards athletes, caffeine pills, and things of that nature. The caffeine content in these foods are not created equal. They can vary greatly. For example, coffee can range anywhere from 80 to 100 milligrams of caffeine per cup. Then there are teas, which come in a variety of different forms. Black teas can range anywhere from 47 to 90 milligrams per cup. Green teas can range anywhere from 20 to 45 milligrams per cup. Then there's matcha, which is a very concentrated form of green tea since it's ground up tea leaves. This has more caffeine and antioxidants in it than regular brewed green tea. But again, how much caffeine will still vary based on how much matcha powder you use when you make your beverage. Then there's energy drinks. Energy drinks by far have the widest range of caffeine at anywhere from 80 to 150 milligrams per 8-ounce serving. But more and more options are popping up, what seems to be monthly, and the caffeine amount in these gateway beverages is also increasing. So it could be way over 150 milligrams from what I've seen in the market. Younger adult and adolescents seem to gravitate towards these forms of caffeine in energy drinks, which out of all of the options listed is probably my absolute least favored form of caffeine. The research on caffeine and young adults shows that energy drink consumption can damage the inner lining of the arteries called the endothelium. It can also decrease insulin sensitivity. And since caffeine is a mild diuretic, it could make you pee an awful lot if you consume an awful lot, which could put a strain on your kidneys, and that could lead to dehydration. So yeah, energy drinks, not a fan. Next, we have soft drinks like colas and Mountain Dews, Mellow Yellows, and other sugary beverages that have caffeine added. These can range anywhere from 20 to 70 milligrams per 12-ounce serving. And finally, there's caffeinated foods, mainly chocolate, cocoa powder, and foods that are made with chocolate. These are generally lowest in caffeine content, ranging from 0 to 50 milligrams per serving. But remember, these numbers are all based on specific serving sizes, and so they can vary greatly depending on brand, how much you consume, and when it comes to coffees and teas, how strong you brew it. When it comes to caffeine, like any other drug, it affects different people in different ways. So, for the most part, we have found that the following populations may want to limit or avoid consuming caffeine. These are pregnant women, but I will say that pregnant women do not need to stop consuming caffeine altogether. It's just that too much caffeine is linked to lower birth weight babies. So the recommendation for this population is no more than 200 milligrams of caffeine per day. Then there are people with anxiety or heart conditions. This can make these conditions worse since caffeine is a stimulant. Then there are those with caffeine sensitivity and those with difficulty sleeping, or those with difficulty, a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep. But again, some folks may be more sensitive than others to this. But caffeine is not all bad. I will say at moderate doses between 40 and 200 milligrams per day, which is equivalent to 2 to 3 cups of coffee per day, there are actually some well-documented benefits. For example, caffeine in these amounts may help improve physical performance, improve mood and mental performance, reduce risk of Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's dementia, and certain types of cancer. And for heart patients, improved blood vessel function and lower inflammation. And for your information, beverages like coffee and tea that have natural forms of caffeine also have hundreds of other bioactive components like polyphenols, in the case of green tea, flavonthiols, which is a type of polyphenol, that are linked to even more health benefits. What about people with heart disease and specific heart conditions? How does caffeine affect them? Well, studies on coffee consumption do show a temporary rise in blood pressure that usually lasts anywhere from 2 to 3 hours after consuming it. But this is more likely to occur for those who aren't habitual coffee drinkers. So if you only drink coffee on occasion or are one of those individuals who are sensitive to caffeine, you may see this temporary rise more so than someone who's been drinking a cup or two of coffee almost every day for their whole adult life. The research, though, is still mixed. So some studies suggest that moderate caffeine intake may have protective effects on heart health, while others suggest the opposite. We do need to consider individual factors like your age, your sex, your weight, genetics, and your overall health status. If you have any other heart conditions or any other health conditions, period. Overall, the current body of evidence, though, suggests that drinking coffee in moderation, those 2 to 3 cups per day, appears to be safe for the heart and may have cardioprotective benefits. But this is probably not due to caffeine alone. In naturally occurring sources of caffeine like coffee, black teas, green teas, the benefits are increased due to the high content of antioxidants and polyphenols. Drinking these types of beverages have been associated with a reduction in your risk of heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and premature death. But I do want to stress the importance of being mindful of what you add to these beverages. A heart-healthy diet should be lower in overall fat and added sugars. So adding too much cream or sugar to your coffee or tea could negate these health benefits altogether. Mainstream coffee shops and their trending fat and sugar-loaded caffeine concoctions have become a craze. So what was once a health-promoting, enjoyable beverage is now loaded with saturated fat, added sugars, and a lot of other artificial ingredients. Additionally, commercially prepared sweetened creamers available at the grocery store, these can also be high in calories, fat, and added sugars. They can also contain partially hydrogenated oils, which is another name for trans fats. And so consuming large amounts of coffees with these ingredients on a daily basis could lead to obesity, elevated total cholesterol, elevated LDL cholesterol, and triglycerides. and it could increase your risk of heart disease because of this. So, what do you do if you can't stand black coffee and you can't stand plain tea? It's just too boring. Well, don't worry, we have options. And I myself need these options because I don't do black coffee. Nope, not going to happen. So, for a little bit of sweetness, you can add small amounts of honey, sugar, or maple syrup. Or if you want another plant based, natural, low calorie, non calorie sweetener, you can also try stevia or monk fruit. For a little creaminess, you can try low-fat or non-fat milk, almond milk, soy milk, or other plant-based milks, evaporated milk, not condensed milk, or some non-fat milk powder. You can also spice things up a bit by adding things like cinnamon, turmeric, unsweetened cocoa powder, which will add even more antioxidants and heart health benefits, or a little vanilla extract. Okay, so let's go back to caffeine. Research on caffeine in coffee shows that excessive amounts can actually lead to heart arrhythmias or AFib, increased heart rate, temporary increases in blood pressure, irritability, tremors, insomnia, and some digestive issues. This is in the case of 4, 5, 6, or more cups of coffee per day. And in the case of those energy drinks, which I talked about earlier, these do not have all the extra beneficial components like coffee and tea do, but they do have a lot of added sugars and more often a lot of empty calories. You'll even, in the cases like this, you'll see even more negative outcomes, especially if you are a habitual energy drinker. For example, it could lead to weight gain and even vascular issues like erectile dysfunction in men. So to sum it all up, caffeine is a stimulant. It can be addicting, like any other stimulating drugs. Studies show that it can have health benefits like increasing your focus and physical performance, as well as some negative side effects like possible heart palpitations, arrhythmias, and temporary increases in blood pressure. There is no recommended daily amount of caffeine, but like I mentioned, the Food and Drug Administration does recommend limiting your intake to under 400 milligrams per day to prevent any negative health outcomes. And finally, some people may be more sensitive to caffeine than other people. So if this is you, or if you have severe hypertension, it's probably best to talk to your doctor about caffeine and whether or not you need to avoid it. If you guys want more information on coffee, tea, or other heart healthy topics, just visit my website at www.kcampbellnutrition.com. And if you have any questions or comments about caffeine or something I mentioned in this video, just leave me a comment below and I will get back to you. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed this video, you can also not miss out on any other videos in the future by clicking on that subscribe so you don't miss anything. Thanks so much, and I will see you guys later.